Good evening, everybody. What's good? It is once again time for the latest installment of Mystery Unsolved. I am once again, of course, your host, Justin Bienvenue. And tonight's topic, as you may have seen from my posts, or you may remember me saying from last week's video, the Men in Black, the real Men in Black. So I'm not going to be talking about Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the real Men in Black. So it should go without saying that if I spent the rest of the video talking with these sunglasses on, would it throw anybody off? Do I don't know, do I look like a Man in Black or do I look like Ray Charles or like let's try this one, huh? Nothing? I have to be serious. Men in Black are always serious. But seriously, let's get down to business, shall we? Let's get down to business. Funny stuff out of the way. So who are the Men in Black? Well, that's why we're here. That the whole thing is a mystery in itself. A lot of people don't know that there actually is real life Men in Black, and they're not anything like they're portrayed in the movie. So that really needs to be said because I feel like a lot of people who watch this or think they know the Men in Black are just like, oh, they're just it's comical and they chase aliens. Like, yeah, not really. It's not what you think it is. It's not what you think it means. Yeah. All right. Without further ado, the real Men in Black. In popular culture and UFO conspiracy theories, Men in Black are supposed men dressed in black suits who claim to be quasi-government agents who harass, threaten, or sometimes even assassinate UFO witnesses to keep them quiet about what they have seen. And right out of the gun, holy crap, right? The term is also frequently used to describe mysterious men working for unknown organizations, as well as various branches of government allegedly designed to protect secrets or perform other strange activity. Second, second sentence, like so. As you can see, definitely not definitely not what you see. It's generic, used for any unusual, threatening, or strangely behaved individual whose appearance on the scene can be linked in some fashion with a UFO sighting. So the one thing that kind of is like the movie, probably the only thing that's like the movies with the real Men in Black is they are of course associated and connected to UFOs and UFO sightings. Several alleged encounters with the Men in Black have been reported by UFO researchers and enthusiasts. So I'm I'm pretty sure if I scroll down we'll get to hear a couple of them. But it's worth noting right off the get-go here before I read any further that a lot of the people who have claimed to see the Men in Black, they all have the same accounts. Like these strange guys show up at their doorstep, ring their doorbell, knock on their door, they answer, and there's like either one or two men dressed in black, glasses, the whole spiel. And they don't always come off as human, if that makes sense. They're very monotone, very dry, very straightforward, by the book type of guys. But also, other encounters of different people have claimed that these men also give off the vibe of them just being unhuman, which is kind of weird because like the very thing that they're at your door for is like the very thing they're portraying. So think about that for a minute. Like they're at your door because they know you saw UFOs, yet they themselves are coming off like alien beings, at least some of the time. But let's continue further into our reading, shall we? Okay. Folklorist James R. Lewis compares accounts of Men in Black with tales of people encountering Lucifer and speculates that they can be considered a kind of psychological drama. Not really sure that needed to be said, but kind of kind of lame there. But let's see what else we got. Men in Black figures prominently in ufology and UFO folklore. In the 1950s and 1960s, ufologists adopted a conspiratorial mindset and began to fear they would be subject to organized intimidation and retaliation for discovering the truth of the UFOs. So a lot of people back in those days, they got together or they didn't get together. They knew they saw something, and that's why they kept quiet. They saw it and they were just like, you know what? No one's going to believe us. No one's going to believe me. No one's going to believe it. Excuse me. No one's going to believe us. So there's no big deal, right? I didn't tell anybody. And then like an hour later, there's a knock at their door, and it's the Men in Black. So a lot of these people pretty much just kind of, you know, they didn't say anything or they kept hush hush because they were in fear of these people, especially if they've already encountered them once. So I feel like that's also probably a motive. These people, the Men in Black, must have shown up to their doorstep at least once. So that way, in the event that they actually somehow see another UFO or alien encounter, they're just like, you know what? Just going to turn around and walk the other way because I don't want those strange men showing up at my door. In 1947, Harold Dahl claimed to have been warned not to talk about his alleged UFO sighting on Maury Island by a man in a dark suit. In the mid-1950s, the ufologist Albert K. Bender claimed he was visited by men in black in dark suits who threatened and warned him not to continue his investigating UFOs. So yeah, this guy had a visitation by men in suits, and they were like, "Sir, you need to stop investigating because we don't need to go any further, and neither do you." Ben, Bender maintained that the men in black were secret government agents who had been given the task of suppressing evidence of UFOs. The ufologist John Keel claimed to have had encounters with men in black and referred to them as demonic supernaturals with dark skin and or exotic facial features. So this is what I said in the beginning. Some of the encounters that these people have with the men in black make them seem like they're not even human. Now, that's a little bit extreme for me. I don't know if I buy that, but again, it just goes to show you that it's just ironic that these guys are showing up at these people's doorsteps like you didn't see UFOs and you didn't see aliens, yet they themselves are coming off like alien beings. So, very interesting. According to the ufologist Jerome Clark, with a lot of ufologists up in the house here, reports of men in black represent experiences, in quotations, experiences that don't seem to have occurred in the world of conscious reality. Let me read that one again because that one kind of went over my head too. According to the ufologist Jerome Clark, reports of men in black represent experiences that don't seem to have occurred in the world of conscious reality. So I guess he's saying that when you're visited by a men in black, you're either dreaming or you're not in a conscious mind. Like, what does that mean? I I hate to make the connection again, but in Men in Black, you know how when they use that thing to suppress, like to erase your memory? I think it's kind of like that. Like you're kind of in this fog. When they come and approach you and they tell you to stop, stop investigating UFOs and aliens, they're giving off a strange vibe, but also they're kind of creating this whole weird, distorted reality, if that's even possible, if that makes sense. At least that's what he's saying. I don't know if I buy what he's saying, but that's what it seems like to me. Historian Aaron Gallias wrote, during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, UFO conspiracy theorists would incorporate the men in black into their increasingly complex and paranoid visions. So basically, this is saying that throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, anytime anybody had a crazy UFO story, they made sure to include the men in black. So that kind of makes it seem like they were full of crap. They were like, you know what? To make the story even more bonkers, we saw people who came to our door and they were dressed in suits and they wore glasses and they were intimidating as all hell. Because that's what a paranoid person would do, right? I mean, that's just, hmm. Ufologist John Keel, I believe I mentioned him earlier. I did. He was the one that referred to them as demonic supernaturals with dark skin and exotic facial features. Ufologist John Keel has argued that some Men in Black encounters can be explained as miscast, entirely mundane events perpetuated through local folklore. So he's pretty much saying what I just said, that they didn't happen. They're tall tales that have been passed down, and every time they're told, there's always a different detail. That's what it sounds like to me. In his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, Keel describes a late night outing in 1967 rural West Virginia where he himself was taken for a man in black while searching for a phone to call a tow truck. I'm just going to read that one again. I know some people probably hate when I repeat myself, but it needs to be done because that way I can better understand it and whoever's viewing this can better understand it. And that's kind of a weird sentence. In his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, Keel describes a late night outing in 1967 rural West Virginia where he himself was mistaken for a man in black while searching for a phone to call a tow truck. So basically, he was mistaken as for a man in black. Like, and besides, it was 1967, and that was when the Mothman stuff was going around. So, I can sort of buy that. But what does John Keel look like? Is what I wonder. Like that he could be mistaken for a man. Like, what was he wearing? Like, do ufologists go around dressed in suits and stuff? Didn't know that. And finally, in his article, Gray Barker, My Friend, the Mythmaker, John C. Sherwood claims that in the late 1960s, at the age of 18, he cooperated when Gray Barker urged him to develop a hoax, which Barker subsequently published about what Barker called black men, three mysterious UFO inhabitants who silenced Sherwood's simonious identity, Dr. Richard H. Pratt. Okay, so basically he's saying that he was told to make a hoax that these men in black were told to like silence him. So he made up an entire story of the men in black coming to him and saying like, "You need to be silenced. You didn't see what you thought you saw. You didn't hear what you thought you saw." So probably didn't need to read that last bit. All right, popular culture. Well, unfortunately, popular culture I'm not really interested in because you already know what it's about. It's about the movie. It's also about a British rock band called the Stranglers who recorded an album called Men in Black. So that's just kind of hogwash. This is going to be a really short video. So basically, you get the idea. So without repeating myself, because God knows I need to make one video without stuttering over myself or repeating myself a half a dozen times. What are my thoughts and opinions on the Men in Black? Well, do I think they exist? Yes. I think they exist when they need to. These are government officials, these are maybe even military officers who have been assigned to certain particular tasks, if you will. Do I think that they show up every time somebody has a UFO or alien encounter? Maybe not every time. I think when somebody has an encounter that's like, like relevant, prominent, or could cause a threat or a problem, then the military and government most likely send a Men in Black to investigate and to intimidate. Although I'd probably say, yeah, the hell with investigate. They go there to straight up intimidate. You know, answering answering. Imagine answering the door and just seeing like a guy in a black suit, sunglasses, Bald, no expression. Sir, we know what you saw. Don't try to deny it. We're just here to tell you that you didn't see it, and you are not to tell anybody, or something bad will happen to you. That's pretty much like that's pretty creepy. But imagine I was bald with glasses and I was wearing a black suit. But again, you get the idea. Maybe if I put the sunglasses on and I say, "Nah, I won't do that." Do I think the Men in Black show up when it's not UFO or alien related? Yes. Again, depending on the situation. If we're talking like John Keel was mistaken for a Men in Black when he was around the time of Mothman. So I think when it's like those type of things, like the myths and like the strange creatures and stuff, I think also the Men in Black would probably show up just to be like, because the one thing I think that's funny here is the Men in Black showing up at your door to tell you that you didn't see what you thought you saw, and if you continue to talk about it, something bad will happen to you, which again is a general premise that I imagine the Men in Black give off. There's them showing up at your doorstep is pretty much them. It's just implying that what you saw was real. Their very presence on your lawn or your doorstep is proof that what you saw, what you heard, was real. So that's kind of ironic and kind of funny if you think about it. But would I myself want to be um would I want to see an UFO or alien encounter? You know, this is a funny question. I've never been asked this question, so I'm gonna ask myself this question. Would I ever want to see a UFO or alien? Yes, because I actually want to be a ufologist in the future, in the upcoming couple years. True story. I do. I always say that I wouldn't want to be those one of those people that like sees it like out of nowhere, out of the blue, because I think there's a difference between studying it and seeing it out of the blue. Like when you walk out your front door and you see it, and then it pretty much takes over your whole life. And for some people, it does, and that's really unfortunate because like you could have like a normal life, normal everyday job, and then one day you go out on your porch at night and you see a UFO. You see what you think is a little green man. The Men in Black show up at your doorstep, and then for the rest of your life, it's changed forever because now you're in fear, or people are just making you a laughing stock because, like, hey, that's the guy who said he saw little green men on his lawn in a UFO. Like, you don't want to be that person. So I think studying it versus just randomly, uh, like, pretty much just randomly seeing it, two completely different things. So as a spectator, I don't want that. As somebody that would work on seeing UFOs and alien encounters, yeah, sign me up. I'll go searching for it, X-Files style, like, no problem. But, like, just randomly seeing it, I'd probably try to be as hush-hush as possible. Now, would I if I saw the Men in Black, if, like, the Men in Black came and paid me a visit, would I tell someone? I really don't know. I don't know if I could. I might be giving something away right now, So the Men in Black are just that. The word of the video here is intimidating. They are strange, bizarre, intimidating men. And if you have any information or you know anything, you saw something, you heard something, you felt something, maybe if you even felt the presence of something, they might show up on your doorstep and be like, listen to us very closely. Everything that you just saw in the last 2 hours never happened. But it should be worth noting. I don't think I have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. That cool little thing that they had, them Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones had in the movie, it probably doesn't exist. And if it does, Jesus Christ, government, please just don't let that get into the wrong hands. Talk about wiping people's memories out. Like, we don't need that. So I don't think the device works. I don't think that exists. Never mind works. I don't think it exists. So the Men in Black, I think they're real. I think that they show up when they need to. And do I think they've ever killed anybody? It's probably the last question I would ask myself. And I would say no. I don't think they're that intimidating. I don't think they're that forceful. But then again, if a person doesn't stop what they're doing, then maybe the Men in Black have been known to make people disappear. Perhaps. Maybe that's what happened to Jim Sullivan. Remember my video of Jim Sullivan 2 weeks ago? Maybe the Men in Black took him. I hope you enjoyed this video of Mystery Unsolved, the real Men in Black. And again, if you are watching this on the replay over on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so that way you can get a notification anytime I do these videos. So normally I tell you that I'm going to be doing a video next week, and I still plan on doing that, but I have even bigger news. So I had a couple videos planned out for pretty much the next 2 months. I still do, but I've actually broken them down because of my big announcement. So I'm going to be doing 2 more videos for Mystery Unsolved, which will be next week. Brace yourselves for this one. Next week, the video and topic will be The Bizarre Tale of Claveris Narcisse. You're probably like, Justin, who in the actual hell is Claveris Narcisse? He, my friends, is a man who claimed to have died. He claims that he died, and he came back 7 years after he died and was a real life zombie. True story. After that, 2 weeks from now, the last video of the season for Mystery Unsolved will be James Dean. Because if there's a mystery, it's definitely James Dean. And then, my friends, I'll be unveiling after those 2 videos, mystery ghost stories, where I will be talking about topics that are pretty much more ghost and supernatural related. It's still Mystery Unsolved, but it just has another name called Mystery Ghost Stories because the topics, again, they pretty much are more ghost, paranormal, supernatural type of things. And I have a lot of good topics for you for that. So I am proud to introduce Mystery Ghost Stories, which is, I would say, maybe it's considered the 4th season of Mystery Unsolved, but for the most part, I'll say that's probably a sub series. So stay tuned for the last 2 weeks of Mystery Unsolved, season 3, and then of course I will be unveiling season 1 of Mystery Ghost Stories. And yeah, should be good stuff. And again, I hope you appreciate this video, you enjoy it. I appreciate those who watched, and I will see you next week.